The red emergency lights flashed across the bridge of the orbital defense station as Commander Juwu Park stared at the holographic display. Her dark eyes reflected the chaos unfolding before her, dozens of unknown ships dropping out of hyperspace near Earth's outer defensive line. Unidentified vessels approaching Mars orbit, reported Lieutenant Taho Kim, his fingers flying across the control panel. They're not responding to hails. Juwu's stomach tightened. After 15 years in Earth's defense force, she knew when something was terribly wrong. The ship's configurations matched nothing in human databases, but their formation was unmistakably military. "Put me through to Central Command," she ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her body. Before the connection could be established, the first energy signatures flared from the alien vessels. Brilliant beams of light cut through the darkness of space, striking the outer defensive satellites. 3 monitoring stations vanished instantly from the tactical display. "They're attacking without provocation," Taho shouted, the professional calm in his voice cracking. "Commander, those are hegemony signatures." Juwu gripped the edge of the command console. The hegemony, a coalition of 7 advanced alien species that controlled nearly a third of the known galaxy. Earth had established diplomatic relations with them only 30 years ago, after humans had developed their first functional faster-than-light drive. "Alert all stations. Battle positions," she ordered. "And get me Admiral Lee immediately." The defense station shuddered as its shields absorbed a direct hit. Juwu watched helplessly as Earth's modest defense fleet moved to intercept the attackers. The human ships were newer, but smaller and fewer in number. They were not built for an all-out war with a galactic superpower. "Incoming transmission," called out Communications Officer Hayamiyun. "It's from the lead hegemony vessel." The main screen flickered, revealing a scaled 4-eyed being with bony ridges where a human would have eyebrows. Supreme Commander Tallow of the Hegemony Core Fleet stared back at her with cold, calculating eyes. "Humans of Earth," the translation software rendered his clicks and whistles. "Your species has been deemed a potential threat to galactic stability. The Hegemony Council has authorized preventative action. Resistance will only increase casualties." The transmission cut off abruptly. Juwu had met Tallow once, at a diplomatic function 3 years earlier. He had seemed dismissive then, barely acknowledging her existence. Now she understood why. Humans had always been categorized as an insignificant species in hegemony records. "They're targeting population centers," Taho shouted as new data flooded his screen. "Multiple planetary defense shields failing in Asia and North America." Juwu felt something cold settle in her chest. This wasn't just an attack. It was an attempt at subjugation, perhaps even extinction. The emergency channel to Global Defense Headquarters finally connected. Admiral Do-Yim Lee's weathered face appeared on the screen, lines of tension evident around his eyes. "Commander Park, report." "Sir, we're facing a full-scale hegemony invasion. At least 40 capital ships and numerous support vessels. They've bypassed our early warning systems and are targeting civilian areas. Our defensive capabilities are," she hesitated, "insufficient." The Admiral's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. "Understood, Commander. Hold position as long as possible. The Council is convening now." For the next 3 hours, Juwu and her crew fought a desperate battle to slow the hegemony advance. 2 more defense stations fell. Earth's small fleet did what damage it could, but they were outmatched in both technology and numbers. From her command post, Juwu watched as the first hegemony ground forces landed in what had once been Shanghai. Then, unexpectedly, the Admiral contacted her again. "Commander Park, you are ordered to fall back to Luna Base immediately. Authorization code Phoenix Rising." Juwu froze. Phoenix Rising wasn't just any code. It was the activation phrase for Earth's most closely guarded secret. "Sir, confirming authorization Phoenix Rising." "Confirmed, Commander." The Global Defense Council vote was unanimous. "We are implementing the Retribution Protocol, effective immediately." As her station began emergency evacuation procedures, Jiwoo felt a mixture of dread and vindication. For decades, certain factions within Earth's government had argued that humanity needed to prepare for the worst, despite peaceful overtures from the galactic community. Resources had been secretly diverted to military research and development, hidden construction facilities established in the asteroid belt and beyond. Most humans had no idea these preparations existed. The hegemony certainly didn't. 12 hours later, Jiwoo stood in a massive underground hangar beneath the lunar surface. Before her stretched rows of sleek warships unlike anything Earth had publicly acknowledged possessing. Their hulls gleamed with a strange dark material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Admiral Lee walked beside her, surveying the fleet. "We hoped we'd never need these," he said quietly. "But we always knew this day might come." "These ships," Jiwoo said, "they're beyond anything we've shown to the galactic community." "By design," the Admiral nodded. "We've been developing this technology for 40 years, ever since our first deep space probes returned with data on hegemony weapons capabilities. The official fleet was always just a facade." At the center of the hangar stood the largest vessel Jiwoo had ever seen. Unlike the others, which were built for speed and maneuverability, this one was clearly designed for raw power. Its hull bristled with weapon emplacements, and the engine array at its stern glowed with barely contained energy. "The HSS Retribution," Admiral Lee said, following her gaze. "Our first and only Planet Killer class vessel." A chill ran down Jiwoo's spine. "Planet Killer. A deterrent only," Lee assured her, though his eyes remained hard. "But the hegemony needs to understand that attacking Earth has consequences." He turned to face her directly. "Commander Park, effective immediately, you are promoted to captain. The Retribution Task Force is yours to command. Your orders are simple: make the hegemony regret their decision." Jiwoo looked up at the massive ship that would be her command. Earth had been pushed too far. The hegemony had believed humans to be weak, primitive, and easily conquered. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Time to settle the score," she said softly. The hegemony battle cruiser Dominant will Shuddered as another blast hit its shields. Supreme Commander Talos steadied himself against his command chair, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in disbelief. "Status report," he demanded. "Shield capacity at 30% and falling," his second-in-command reported. 3 escort vessels destroyed. 2 more heavily damaged. Talos stared at the tactical display, showing the battle unfolding around the Proxima Centauri mining outpost. What had been planned as a simple operation to secure their flank had turned into a nightmare. The human ships had appeared from nowhere, using some unknown form of faster-than-light travel that had bypassed all their early warning systems. "Impossible," Talo muttered, watching another hegemony vessel break apart under sustained fire. "These primitives shouldn't have this technology." The human vessels moved with precision and coordination that spoke of extensive battle training. Their weapons cut through hegemony shields using frequencies that should have been unknown to their species. But most disturbing was the massive ship at the center of their formation, a vessel larger than anything the humans had ever fielded before. Aboard that very ship, Captain Jiwoo Park stood on the bridge of the HSS Retribution, her face illuminated by the soft blue glow of tactical displays. The enormous command center hummed with activity as her crew, handpicked from Earth's best, worked their stations with quiet efficiency. "Enemy flagship identified," announced Tactical Officer Janoba. "The Dominant will. Their shields are weakening." "Target their propulsion systems," Jiwoo ordered. "I want them unable to retreat, but still able to communicate." Beside her, Ambassador Minho Kang watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and concern. As Earth's senior diplomat to the galactic community, he had spent years smiling politely while hegemony representatives talked down to humans. Now he struggled to hide his satisfaction at their shocked faces appearing on communication channels. "Captain, we're receiving a hail from one of the neutral observer vessels," Communications Officer Hayami Yun reported. "On screen," Jiwoo replied. The image of a tall, slender alien appeared. Unlike the scaled, reptilian appearance of the hegemony species, this being had pale blue skin and large, expressive eyes. Ambassador Caro of the Elaren Republic bowed slightly. "Captain Park," he said through his translator, "the Elaren Republic wishes to understand Earth's intentions. Your attack on hegemony forces is unexpected." "Not an attack, Ambassador," Ju corrected. "A response. The hegemony struck Earth without warning or provocation. We are merely defending ourselves." Caro's eyes widened. "The hegemony attacked your homeworld. This was not reported to the Galactic Council." "I'm not surprised," Minho cut in, stepping forward. "The hegemony has never considered humans worth consulting. They believed they could wipe us out without consequences." On the tactical display, 3 hegemony dreadnoughts attempted to flank the human formation. With a series of quick commands, Ju repositioned her forces. The Retribution's main batteries fired, creating a devastating crossfire that caught the enemy ships. 2 immediately veered off, their shields collapsing. The third erupted in a silent explosion. "Captain," Juno reported, "the enemy flagship is attempting to power up their faster-than-light drive." "Disable it," Ju ordered. A precisely targeted pulse from the Retribution struck the hegemony vessel. The lights on the enemy ship flickered momentarily before stabilizing. "They're dead in space," Juno confirmed. "The rest of their fleet is retreating." Ju nodded. "Open a channel to the dominant will." Supreme Commander Talos' face appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. "This is Captain Park of the Earth Defense Force," Ju said calmly. "Your ship is disabled. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated according to galactic conventions." "You primitive upstarts," Talo hissed. "How dare you challenge the hegemony? This technology, you stole it." "No, Commander," Ju replied. "We developed it ourselves, while your diplomats were busy dismissing us as insignificant." Ambassador Caro's transmission cut in. "Supreme Commander, I must inform you that I have already reported this incident to the Galactic Council. Your attack on Earth violates multiple treaties." Talos' scales darkened with anger. The Elaren Republic would do well to remember its place. "This is hegemony business." "Not anymore," Minho said. "When you attacked Earth, you made it everyone's business." As the diplomatic exchange continued, Lieutenant Taho Kim approached Ju with a datapad. "Captain, we've completed scans of the hegemony vessels," he said quietly. "Their shield technology is more vulnerable than our intelligence suggested, and their weapons systems are at least 1 generation behind what we prepared for." Ju nodded thoughtfully. "They never expected to face serious resistance from us. They didn't bring their best." "There's more," Taho added. "We're detecting signals from other ships at the edge of the system. Non-hegemony vessels. It seems news of our victory is spreading fast." Within hours, the Retribution's hangar bay hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from 3 species that had previously avoided contact with humans arrived to meet with Captain Park and Ambassador Kang. Among them was Ambassador Caro, whose interest in humans had clearly increased. "Your people hide much behind their smiles," Caro observed as they watched the hegemony prisoners being processed. "The galaxy believe humans to be technological novices, barely able to maintain their colony on Mars. We learned early to keep our capabilities quiet," Minho explained. "Earth's history taught us that showing weakness invites predators." "And now," Caro asked, "what are your intentions?" Chiwu, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "To ensure that what happened to Earth never happens again, to us or any other species." As word of the battle spread across subspace communications, other hegemony fleets scrambled to regroup. Reports filtered in of uprisings on worlds they had subjugated. 3 minor species that had been under hegemony control sent secret messages to Earth, offering alliance. In her private quarters that evening, Ju reviewed the data from the battle. Their victory had been decisive, but this was just the beginning. Intelligence suggested that the hegemony had already dispatched larger fleets from their core systems. Captain, Tahoe's voice came through the intercom. Admiral Lee is requesting a secure transmission. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on her screen moments later. Congratulations on your victory, Captain Park. The Council has reviewed your report. Thank you, sir. The retribution performed beyond expectations. Admiral Lee nodded. Earth is still reeling from the attack. 2 major cities destroyed, millions of casualties. The people are demanding justice. And they'll have it, Ju promised. What are my orders? Push deeper into hegemony space, the Admiral said. Show them, show everyone, that humanity is not to be underestimated again. As the transmission ended, Ju returned to the viewport, gazing out at the stars. The hegemony had awakened something they couldn't have anticipated. Humanity had come to settle the score, and the galaxy would never be the same. The captured hegemony outpost on Proxima was eerily silent as Captain Ju Park led her team through its winding corridors. 6 weeks had passed since their first victory, and Earth's forces had pushed steadily into enemy territory, liberating 3 systems and capturing vital intelligence with each advance. This way, Captain, said Security Officer Haijin Ryu, consulting her scanner. The main data center should be just ahead. They moved cautiously, weapons ready, though sensors showed no life signs. The hegemony forces had abandoned the outpost in a hurry, destroying what equipment they could, but their retreat had been too rapid to be thorough. The data center doors slid open to reveal a large chamber filled with alien technology. Workstations lined the walls, their displays dark except for one still glowing with faint purple light. Secure the room, Ju ordered. As her team spread out, she approached the active console. The symbols scrolling across the screen were unlike standard hegemony script. Can you translate this? She asked Haijin, who had specialized in sinolinguistics before joining the security division. Haijin studied the display, her brow furrowed in concentration. It's an older dialect, used primarily by the founding species of the hegemony. Give me a moment. While Haijin worked, Ju surveyed the room. This outpost was more than a military installation. It appeared to be a research facility of some kind. The equipment was sophisticated even by hegemony standards. Captain, Haijin called, her voice slightly unsteady. I think you need to see this. Ju joined her at the console, where Haijin had managed to access the facility's archives. A series of images flashed across the screen. Satellite views of Earth dating back centuries, genetic sequences labeled as human, and what appeared to be excavation sites on multiple continents. They've been studying us for hundreds of years, Haijin said, the color draining from her face. This wasn't a random attack. Earth was specifically targeted because of something called the Awakening Protocol. What is that? Ju asked, feeling a chill run down her spine. I'm not entirely sure, Haijin admitted, but according to these files, the Hegemony Council voted to eliminate humanity before some kind of potential could be realized. Before they could dig deeper, a communication alert sounded. Ambassador Caro's ship had arrived in orbit, responding to Ju's invitation to examine the outpost. The Ellerin diplomat had proven to be a valuable ally in recent weeks, helping navigate the complex politics of the various species watching Earth's conflict with the hegemony. 30 minutes later, Caro stood in the data center, his tall blue form bent over the console as he reviewed the findings. His large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress in his species. This confirms my worst fears, he said finally. The hegemony has been violating the Ancient Sites Protection Treaty for centuries. Ancient Sites? Ju asked. Yes, Caro replied. According to these records, they discovered unusual artifacts on your planet. Artifacts similar to those found on worlds with the oldest known civilizations in our galaxy. Earth doesn't have artifacts from ancient alien civilizations, Ju said firmly. We would know. Caro's expression was solemn. Captain, these artifacts aren't structures or technology as you might imagine. They're microscopic alterations to planetary biology, seeds planted millions of years ago by a species we call the predecessors. As the implications sank in, Lieutenant Taho Kim entered the room with a portable drive. "Captain, we've recovered partial data from a damaged storage unit. It appears to be video logs from the Supreme Commander." The team gathered around as Taho connected the drive to a secure human terminal. Supreme Commander Talos' scaled face appeared on screen, speaking to someone off-camera. "Must act now," he was saying. "The genetic markers are becoming more pronounced with each generation. The humans are evolving faster than predicted. If the awakening begins, we lose all control." The recording skipped, damaged in sections, before continuing. Council remains divided, but those of us who remember the predecessor warnings cannot allow another adaptive species to rise. The attack on Earth must appear unprovoked. No one can know the true reason. Jumu felt the weight of this revelation settle heavily on her shoulders. "They attacked us because they feared what we might become." Karo nodded slowly. The predecessors were said to have seeded several worlds with special genetic potential, species that could one day evolve to inherit their legacy. The hegemony was formed, in part, to control these worlds and prevent any one species from gaining too much power. "And now they're paying the price for their arrogance," Taho observed. Over the next days, as her team worked to extract more information from the outpost, Jumu found herself forming an uneasy alliance with Kuro. The Ellerin knew more about the hegemony's inner workings than he had initially revealed, and his knowledge became invaluable as the human fleet pushed deeper into enemy space. Together, they pieced together fragments of a conspiracy reaching back generations. With each conquered system, more subjugated species were liberated, many joining the growing coalition against their former oppressors. 3 weeks later, the Retribution led a battle group to the Taurus Nexus, a major hegemony stronghold. Intelligence suggested it housed crucial information about the predecessor artifacts and their connection to human DNA. What they found instead was the main hegemony battle fleet, positioned for a desperate last stand. Dozens of warships formed a defensive perimeter around the Nexus station, but something else appeared on the sensors: a massive civilian habitat, home to thousands of non-combatants from various species, positioned directly behind the military vessels. "They're using civilians as shields," Tactical Officer Junobai reported, disgust evident in his voice. "If we engage their fleet, we risk hitting the habitat." Ju studied the tactical display, searching for options. Standard battle doctrine would call for retreat and reconsideration. But time was running out. Earth had intercepted communications, suggesting a second hegemony force was planning another strike at humanity's home system. She felt the weight of command like never before. The choice before her would define not just this battle, but how the galaxy viewed humanity for generations to come. "Target the fleet's command vessels only," she ordered finally. "Precision strikes, minimal yield weapons. We'll accept increased risk to our ships to protect those civilians." "Captain," Junho warned, "that puts our people in significantly greater danger." "I know," Ju said quietly, "but we can't become what we're fighting against." The battle that followed was the most difficult of the campaign. 3 human ships were lost, including the cruiser Dauntless with all hands, but when the fighting ended, the hegemony fleet was in ruins, and the civilian habitat remained intact. In the aftermath, as rescue operations began, Ju received a secured transmission from Admiral Lee. His expression was grave as he delivered the news. Intelligence recovered from the Nexus confirmed their fears. A secret hegemony strike force was already en route to Earth, carrying weapons designed to trigger catastrophic geological events, weapons that would leave no trace of who had deployed them. "The Retribution is the only ship fast enough to intercept them," the Admiral said. "You have new orders, Captain. Stop that fleet at any cost." As she issued commands to prepare for immediate departure, Ju couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come, and how much farther they still needed to go. What had begun as a mission of retribution had evolved into something far more complex, a fight not just for human survival, but for the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. And that truth, it seemed, was more profound and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The Hegemony Strike Force never reached Earth. Captain Park's intercept mission succeeded beyond all expectations, with the Retribution appearing directly in the path of the enemy fleet. What followed wasn't so much a battle as an execution, precise, methodical, and absolute. No warning was given, no quarter offered. The weapons meant for Earth were turned to dust in the cold emptiness of deep space. 3 days later, the blue-green world of Doroth, the Hegemony capital, glowed on the main view screen of the Retribution's bridge. After months of fighting across dozens of star systems, the human fleet had arrived at the heart of their enemy's power. 18 Hegemony warships in defensive formation, reported Shunobah, planetary shield at maximum capacity. They know we're coming. Juwu nodded, studying the tactical display. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces reflecting the gravity of the moment. This was what they had fought for, the chance to bring the war directly to those who had orchestrated the attack on Earth. Captain, Communications Officer Hayemi called. We're receiving transmissions from multiple factions on the surface. It seems there's significant political upheaval. The Supreme Council is fracturing. Open a channel to all Hegemony forces, Juwu ordered. When the connection was established, she stood before the bridge's communication array. Her voice was calm, but carried an unmistakable steel as it was broadcast to the enemy fleet and planet below. This is Captain Juwu Park of the Earth Defense Force. Your unprovoked attack on our homeworld has been answered. Your fleets are scattered. Your subject worlds have risen against you. We now stand at the heart of your empire with enough firepower to reduce this planet to ash. She paused, letting the words sink in. But unlike you, we do not wage war on civilians. Surrender your military forces and those responsible for the attack on Earth, and your people will be spared. For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then, one by one, 7 of the Hegemony ships powered down their weapons. The remaining 11 moved to tighten their formation around the planet. They're fractured, Tahoe observed. Some want to surrender, others will fight to the end. Prepare targeting solutions for the hostile vessels only, Juwu commanded. Precision strikes. No collateral damage. As her crew readied for battle, a priority transmission came through from Earth. General Sujin Nang's face appeared on screen, her expression severe. Captain Park, I'm with the War Council now. There's significant debate about our next actions. Some members are advocating for a full planetary bombardment as a message to any who would threaten Earth in the future. With respect, General, Juwu replied firmly. That would mean the deaths of billions of civilians who had no part in the decision to attack us. I agree, Sujin said, but I need your assessment to convince the hardliners. We fight to establish justice, not to become what we despise, Juwu stated, echoing the words Admiral Lee had spoken to her before his death in the Battle of Ta City. The Hegemony leadership must answer for their crimes, but genocide is not justice. The battle for Doroth lasted just under 4 hours. The Retribution, along with its escort ships, systematically disabled the defending warships with surgical precision. 3 human vessels were damaged, but none were lost. When the last enemy ship surrendered, Juwu ordered ground forces to secure the Supreme Council's fortress-like headquarters. 26 hours later, she stood in the Grand Chamber where the Hegemony's 7 ruling species had plotted humanity's destruction. The room was designed to intimidate, with towering ceilings and oversized furnishings that made most species feel small and insignificant. But Juwu felt neither as she faced Supreme Leader Talo, now a prisoner in his own palace. The alien seemed diminished somehow, his scaled skin dull with age and stress, his proud posture now stooped. Behind him stood representatives from each ruling species, their expressions ranging from defiance to fear. Your species was prophesied to bring change, Talo said, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into flat human speech. We sought to prevent the upheaval that change would bring. You weren't preventing change, Ju replied. You were protecting your power at the cost of countless lives, including those of your own people. Ambassador Caro stood slightly behind Ju, his tall blue form a reminder of the coalition that had formed around humanity's cause. Several other alien diplomats flanked him, representatives of species that had suffered under hegemony rule. The ancient texts speak of a species that would awaken the predecessor legacy, Caro explained. The hegemony has suppressed this knowledge, twisted it to justify their dominance. Talos' 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You understand nothing of the dangers. If the awakening is completed, show us, Ju interrupted. Show us these ancient texts, these artifacts you feared so much that you would commit genocide to keep them hidden. In a secure vault beneath the council chambers, they found what the hegemony had protected for centuries. Crystal data storage devices, far more advanced than current technology, containing information about the predecessors and their plans for the galaxy's evolution. Hyjin Ryu worked with synorchaeologists from 3 species to translate the material. What they discovered shook the foundations of galactic history. The predecessors weren't just an ancient species, Hyjin explained to Ju later that evening. They were caretakers, cultivating life across the galaxy. They seeded specific worlds with genetic potential, including Earth. And the hegemony knew this. The founding members did. They found one of the first artifact sites and used that knowledge to build their empire, but they misunderstood the predecessor's intention. This wasn't about creating weapon species or determining who would rule. It was about diversity, adaptability, and cooperation. As night fell on Dorith, Ju faced her most difficult challenge yet. With the hegemony leadership in custody, decisions had to be made about governance, justice, and the path forward. Delegations from dozens of worlds arrived seeking representation in whatever new order would emerge. In her temporary quarters, she reviewed reports from Earth. The damage from the hegemony attack was slowly being repaired. New cities rose where old ones had been destroyed. But the psychological impact ran deeper. Humanity had been forced to confront its place in a dangerous universe and had responded with both incredible courage and concerning ruthlessness. A soft chime announced a visitor. Ambassador Minho Kang entered, carrying data files from the latest Earth transmission. The Council is requesting your recommendation on the hegemony leadership, he said. There are calls for public trials, execution, even exile to uninhabited worlds. Ju looked out at the alien cityscape below, lights twinkling as night fell. What do the predecessor records say about justice? They believed in restoration over retribution, Minho replied. Healing rather than punishment. She nodded slowly, making her decision. Then that's what we'll recommend. The galaxy has seen enough vengeance. As she prepared her response to Earth, Ju reflected on their journey. They had come to settle a score, but had discovered something far more important. A legacy that could unite rather than divide, if only they had the wisdom to embrace it. 1 year after the fall of Dorith, the newly constructed Unity Station orbited Earth, its crystalline rings catching the light of the sun. Inside the great circular chamber, representatives from 27 species gathered to witness a moment that would change galactic history forever. Admiral Ju Park, her captain's uniform replaced by the formal diplomatic attire of Earth's Defense Force, stood at the center of the chamber. The last year had aged her. Fine lines now framed her eyes, and streaks of silver touched her dark hair. But her posture remained straight, her gaze clear and determined as she watched alien diplomats file into the room. Nervous? Asked Subin Choi, now Earth's first galactic ambassador, joining her at the viewing window. Focused, Ju replied. I never expected to be here when we first launched the Retribution. None of us did. Subin agreed. We wanted justice. Instead, we got this. She gestured to the gathering delegates. Representatives from former hegemony worlds sat beside species that had been neutral during the conflict. Former enemies and allies alike had come together for this historic moment. the signing of the Galactic Concordat, a new framework for interstellar relations with humanity as a founding member. Karo, the Elleran diplomat who had become one of humanity's strongest supporters, approached them. Admiral Park, the council is ready to begin. The ceremony started with a remembrance of those lost. Images of devastated Earth cities appeared alongside the names of worlds that had suffered under hegemony rule. The message was clear. This new beginning was built on the understanding of what conflict truly cost. The Concordat is not merely a peace treaty, Subin declared in her opening address. It is a recognition that our futures are bound together. We did not seek this role as peacekeepers, but we accept it. Humanity remembers what it means to be powerless, and we will not allow the strong to prey upon the weak. As Subin spoke, Zhu noticed former Supreme Leader Talo watching from a secluded area. No longer a prisoner, but stripped of his authority, he now served as an advisor to the transition government on Dorath. Their eyes met briefly across the chamber. He gave a small nod, not quite respect, but acknowledgement. When each species had affixed their signature or genetic marker to the document, Zhu took her place at the central podium. 1 year ago, we came seeking retribution, she said, her voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the chamber. Today, we offer partnership instead. The knowledge recovered from the predecessor archives tells us that we were never meant to dominate one another, but to complement each other's strengths. After the ceremony, Zhu walked through the station's observation deck, watching as Earth turned slowly below. So much had changed in such a short time. The former hegemony worlds had begun adopting human technologies, human customs, and most importantly, human ideals about governance and individual rights. It suits you, said a voice behind her. Zhu turned to find Taho Kim, now commander of Earth's diplomatic security force. What does? She asked. Peace, he replied. You were always a reluctant warrior. She smiled slightly. We all were. That's what made us different from them. Later that evening, in a private meeting room, Zhu sat with the core group that had become known as the Architects, those who had shaped the new galactic order. Karo and representatives from 6 other species joined Minho, Subin, and several human military leaders. The transition governments on former hegemony worlds are reporting increased stability, reported Saren, a feline-like diplomat from Vega. Their populations are adapting to democratic processes remarkably well. And the technology exchange programs? Zhu asked. Exceeding expectations, Taho replied. Our adaptive shield designs are being implemented across allied fleets, and we're learning much from their propulsion systems. What about the predecessor artifacts? Asked Haijin Ryu, who had become the leading human expert on the ancient technology. Kuro's expression grew serious. 17 new sites have been located across 12 worlds. All conform to the patterns we discovered in the hegemony archives. And Earth's sites? Zhu pressed. Still dormant, Haijin answered. Whatever the awakening protocol is supposed to trigger, it hasn't happened yet. The genetic markers are present in approximately 30% of the human population, but remain inactive. The meeting continued late into the night as they discussed ongoing challenges. Several former hegemony worlds were experiencing resource shortages. 3 minor species had requested Earth's protection against possible retaliation from hegemony loyalists hiding in the outer systems. When the others had departed, Zhu remained at the window, watching as distant stars became visible when Earth's shadow fell across the station. Admiral Lee had once told her that humans were made of stardust. Now, looking at the vast expanse of space, she finally understood what he meant. They belonged among these stars, had always been part of something greater. A soft alert from her communication device broke her contemplation. The message was brief but concerning. Unusual energy signatures detected beyond the galactic rim, matching no known pattern. Zhu was still studying the report when Karo returned to the observation deck. You should be celebrating with the others, he said. There will be time for celebration later, she replied, showing him the report. What do you make of this? The Elleran studied the data, his expression growing troubled. There were rumors, stories passed down through generations, about why the predecessors disappeared. You think this could be related? I don't know, Karo admitted, but the ancient texts spoke of a threat from beyond, something the predecessors were preparing younger species to face. Juwu looked back at the stars, feeling a familiar tension return to her shoulders. Perhaps their reckoning with the hegemony had been just the beginning. Whatever waits out there, she said finally, humanity will be ready. The galaxy has shuddered once when humans came to settle the score, and has emerged stronger for it. Karo placed a four-fingered hand gently on her shoulder, a gesture he had adopted from human custom. Your species truly is remarkable, Admiral Park. When I first observed your battle at Proxima Centauri, I told my government, the universe has not seen their like before. And now? Juwu asked. The Elleran's eyes shimmered with what humans had come to recognize as a smile. And now I say, the universe will never be the same again. As Unity Station continued its silent orbit around Earth, ships from a dozen worlds came and went, carrying diplomats, traders, and ordinary citizens between formerly isolated planets. Children on worlds that had once been bitter enemies now learned each other's languages and histories. What had begun with humanity seeking vengeance had transformed into something none had anticipated. A true galactic community, bound by shared knowledge and purpose. And if something waited beyond the rim, something that had frightened even the predecessors, they would face it not alone, but together. Juwu Park, once a commander of war, now a shepherd of peace, turned from the window and headed to the command center. There was still work to be done.